All right, so today we're going to be looking at large language models. And, specifically this report you sent me on Phi-4.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of buzz about it,
Yeah,
and for good reason it seems to be doing
a lot of buzz.
some pretty remarkable things, especially considering its size.
Yeah, it's definitely caught my eye as well.
Yeah.
14 billion parameters is pretty tiny
Yeah.
compared to what we've been seeing with some of these other models lately.
Right.
Yet it's achieving results that rival and in some cases even surpass
Yeah.
much larger models. And that's
impressive.
no small feat.
Yeah. So let's get to the heart of it. What makes Phi-4 so special?
Yeah.
The report emphasizes their focus on data quality, particularly the use of synthetic data.
Right.
Can you break that down for us? Why is this approach so important, especially for a model focusing on complex reasoning tasks?
Sure. So most large language models are trained on massive data sets of text and code scraped from the internet, which is what we kind of refer to as organic data. But this approach can be a bit of a mixed bag. You get a lot of information, but the quality can vary wildly.
Right.
So Phi-4 takes kind of a different tack by incorporating a significant amount of synthetic data alongside that organic data.
Okay.
And what's really fascinating about synthetic data is that it's intentionally crafted to teach the model specific skills.
Oh, interesting.
So you can almost imagine it like a textbook specifically designed to build reasoning abilities.
So they're not just throwing any old data at it. They're being very deliberate about what Phi-4 learns.
Precisely. And the report outlines 3 kind of key principles that guided Phi-4's development, all kind of focused on this idea of quality over quantity.
Interesting. Okay, so what are those 3 principles?
Yeah, so the first is, of course, the use of this synthetic data. And they didn't just use one type. They actually developed an array of techniques to generate these diverse synthetic data sets.
Give us a taste of what that looks like. What kind of techniques are we talking about here?
Well, one that really stands out to me is something called self-revision workflows.
Okay.
And essentially what happens is the model is trained to critique and refine its own outputs based on built-in rubrics.
Wow.
So it's almost like having the model act as its own teacher.
Right.
Constantly evaluating and improving its work.
It's like they've built a feedback loop right into the model.
Yeah, exactly.
So synthetic data is pillar number 1. What's next?
All right, so the second principle focuses on using high-quality organic data.
Okay.
So remember, they're not abandoning organic data altogether.
Right.
They're just being incredibly selective about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So imagine having a research assistant who only brings you the most insightful and relevant articles.
Okay.
That's kind of what they're doing here.
I like it.
They've developed a 2-stage filtering process to identify the most valuable information within those organic data sets.
Makes sense. You wouldn't want to train a model on just anything you find on the internet.
Exactly. So they first identify pages with high educational potential. And then they kind of go deeper, extracting specific passages that are rich in factual and reasoning content.
So it's multi-layered.
Yeah.
Okay, so that covers the data they're using. What about the training process itself? What are they doing that's different or innovative?
Right. So that leads us to the third principle, advanced post-training techniques.
Okay.
So once Phi-4 has gone through that initial training phase, they refine its capabilities even further.
Got it.
And one intriguing method they mentioned is called pivotal token search,
Okay.
which plays a key role in their direct preference optimization, or DPO.
All right.
It's a little bit complex, but
Yeah.
imagine a sculptor
Okay.
meticulously refining the most critical features of a statue rather than just smoothing over every little imperfection.
Right.
That's the essence of pivotal token search. It helps the model learn more efficiently by focusing on the most impactful elements of its output.
It sounds like they're really fine-tuning this model for precision and efficiency, but all this clever training wouldn't matter if it didn't translate into real-world performance. How does Phi-4 actually stack up against those bigger, more established models?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The report highlights several examples of Phi-4's impressive performance, and keep in mind, this is consistently being compared to models many times its size.
Right.
One striking example is its performance on the math benchmark.
Okay, math benchmark. So are we talking about like actual math competitions?
We are. They even tested Phi-4 on the November 2024 AMC math competitions.
Wow.
These are high school competitions that are used as qualifiers for the Math Olympiad.
That's amazing.
And get this, those competitions happened after Phi-4 was trained.
So they were testing it on completely new problems, ones it couldn't possibly have seen during training.
Precisely. And it still performed remarkably well.
That's incredible.
And it was able to solve problems it had never encountered before, exceeding the scores of some much larger, well-known models.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, it's a real testament to the power of its reasoning capabilities.
I'm curious, though, how do they know it's not cheating? Is there any way to ensure the model isn't somehow memorizing answers or having access to test data beforehand?
That's a valid question, and the report does address it.
Good.
They were very careful to minimize overfitting and data contamination,
Okay.
ensuring that Phi-4's success wasn't just a matter of memorizing the training data.
Right.
They used several techniques to ensure the model was truly learning and generalizing knowledge, not simply regurgitating information.
So they're doing their due diligence to ensure the results are legitimate.
Absolutely. They've gone to great lengths to design these rigorous testing procedures and ensure they're evaluating Phi-4's true learning and reasoning capabilities.
Okay, good to know. Well, this is all very impressive. So we've got this small model that's outperforming giants thanks to its unique data and training approach. But even with all its strengths, it can't be perfect, right? What are some of the limitations they acknowledge in the report?
Right. You're right. No model is perfect. And the report does highlight some of Phi-4's limitations.
Okay.
One area where it sometimes struggles is with factual accuracy, especially when dealing with less common or specialized knowledge.
Oh, interesting.
It might hallucinate facts, meaning it generates information that isn't actually true.
So it's not a perfect encyclopedia despite its ability to reason.
Exactly. And that makes sense given its training focus. They've prioritized reasoning and problem solving over memorizing vast amounts of information.
Makes sense.
They also mentioned that it can be a bit finicky when it comes to strictly following instructions,
Okay.
particularly those that involve complex formatting or very specific stylistic rules.
So it might not be the best choice for writing a sonnet or generating a perfectly formatted spreadsheet.
Precisely, its strength lies in reasoning and applying knowledge, not necessarily in adhering to arbitrary rules or stylistic constraints.
Gotcha. But despite these limitations, it's clear that Phi-4 is doing something really interesting.
It is.
It challenges our assumptions about model size and raises some fascinating questions about the future of AI development.
Absolutely.
It definitely does. It's a compelling example of how innovation can come from unexpected places, and I'm eager to dive deeper into some of those implications.
Me too.
But we're going to have to wait till next time
Yeah, we'll pick it up then.
to explore more about how they built this remarkable model.
Sounds good.
We'll unpack the details of their synthetic data creation process, and we'll even talk about their custom benchmark Vivage, so stay tuned.
Looking forward to it.
All right, see you next time.
See ya.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dig a little bit deeper into the nuts and bolts of Phi-4.
Yeah.
We've established they're using this combination of high-quality organic and synthetic data, but I'm curious about how they actually go about creating that synthetic data. It seems like a pretty involved process.
It is, but it's this attention to detail that really sets Phi-4 apart. They didn't just settle for generic synthetic data sets.
Right.
They meticulously crafted around 50 different types,
50? Wow, that's a lot.
each designed to teach specific reasoning skills and cover a wide range of topics and interaction styles.
It sounds like they're taking a very systematic approach. Where do they even start with something like that?
Well, it all begins with what they call seed curation.
Seed curation.
Yeah, and essentially they start with these high-quality seeds.
Yeah.
You can think of like snippets of text or code or even sets of questions sourced from different domains.
Okay.
For example, they gathered questions from websites and forums and Q&A platforms, focusing specifically on those that would really challenge the model's reasoning abilities.
So it's not just random information. These seeds are carefully chosen to target specific skills and knowledge areas.
Exactly, and they even have this clever plurality-based technique for filtering out questions that are either too easy or too ambiguous.
Okay, how does that work?
So essentially, they have multiple AI agents independently answer each question.
Oh, interesting.
And if they all agree, it kind of suggests that the question is too straightforward. But if their answers are all over the map, it means the question is either too complex or poorly phrased.
It's like a crowdsourced difficulty assessment, but using AI instead of humans.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty ingenious. Okay, so they've got these carefully selected seeds. What's the next step in this synthetic data creation process?
From there, they employ a technique they call rewrite and augment.
Okay.
And so they take those seeds and transform them into exercises, discussions, or even structured reasoning tasks.
Okay.
So imagine taking a basic fact and turning it into a multi-step problem that requires logical thinking to solve.
Okay.
That's kind of the essence of this process.
So it's about building complexity and encouraging the model to think critically, not just memorize information.
Precisely. And one of the workflows they mention using for this is self-revision, where the model is actually trained to critique and refine its own outputs.
We were talking about that before.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it provided with rubrics and guidelines.
Okay.
And the model uses these to evaluate and iteratively improve its own work.
So it's like the model is acting as its own editor, constantly striving for better reasoning and clarity.
Yeah.
It's remarkable how they're leveraging AI to enhance the training process itself.
It is. And this self-revision process is particularly helpful for tasks that require multi-step reasoning, where the model needs to kind of build upon its own thoughts and refine its approach as it goes.
Yeah.
Now, remember we talked about how they also use organic data,
Yeah.
right? But they're incredibly selective about it.
Right.
They prioritize what they call reasoning dense and nuanced material,
Okay.
meaning sources that really demonstrate complex arguments, logical progressions, in-depth analysis.
So we're talking about academic papers, in-depth articles, that sort of thing.
Exactly. They're looking for content that will challenge the model to think critically
Okay.
and engage with these sophisticated ideas.
Got it.
And they even go further and use these organic sources as inspiration for creating even more specialized synthetic data sets. So it's a sort of virtuous cycle where they're constantly refining and improving the training data based on what they learn from both organic and synthetic sources.
It's like they're building a custom curriculum for Phi-4 tailored to its specific strengths and weaknesses.
That's a great way to put it. And this dedication to data quality really shines through in their creation of PhiBench.
Okay, PhiBench, yeah, you mentioned this earlier.
Right.
Can you explain why they needed to create their own benchmark and how it's different from the standard benchmarks out there?
Yeah, so they felt that a lot of existing AI benchmarks kind of had these limitations that weren't really suitable for evaluating a model like Phi-4.
Okay.
One major concern was data contamination. The possibility that the benchmark data sets might overlap with the data used to train the models.
Right, so it's like giving a student a test based on their own homework. They might ace it, but it doesn't necessarily mean they've truly mastered the material.
Exactly. And they also felt that a lot of benchmarks focused on a narrow range of skills, which didn't really fully capture the breadth of Phi-4's capabilities.
Right.
They wanted to evaluate its performance on a wider range of tasks, including complex reasoning, problem solving, even creativity.
So they needed a more holistic evaluation that went beyond just measuring accuracy on a limited set of tasks.
Exactly. And PhiBench was designed to do just that. It incorporates a wider variety of tasks,
Okay.
uses more rigorous scoring methods,
Got it.
focusing on logical structure, clarity of reasoning, adherence to task requirements, rather than just surface level accuracy.
Right.
This helps them really identify Phi-4's true strengths and weaknesses and fine-tune its performance accordingly.
Makes sense that they would need a specialized tool to accurately assess the unique capabilities of a model like Phi-4, but this all sounds pretty resource intensive. I'm curious, with all this emphasis on high quality data and custom benchmarks, does this approach limit the accessibility of Phi-4? Could other researchers or developers utilize it, or is it too specialized?
That's a great question, and it kind of highlights one of the most exciting aspects of Phi-4.
Yeah.
Despite its sophisticated training and evaluation methods,
Right.
its relatively small size actually makes it more accessible compared to these larger models.
Interesting.
It requires significantly less computational power and resources, both to train and to run.
So it's not just a research project locked away in a high-tech lab.
Not at all. That's the beauty of it.
I like it.
This approach could potentially democratize access to advanced AI.
Yeah.
Like actually researchers in developing countries, small businesses, even individual developers.
Yeah.
Being able to experiment with and utilize a model like this, it opens up a whole world of possibilities.
That's a really compelling point. It's not just about pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI. It's about making those advancements accessible to a wider audience.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about how they built Phi-4, how they train it, how they evaluate it.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I'd love to hear more about those impressive results you mentioned earlier.
Sure.
You said it was outperforming much larger models on certain tasks.
Right.
Can you give us some specific examples of what Phi-4 can actually do?
Of course. So the report highlights Phi-4's remarkable performance on two key benchmarks, GPQA and math.
Okay.
GPQA stands for Graduate Level Google Proof Q&A.
Okay.
And it's a data set of complex STEM questions designed to be challenging even for advanced language models.
So these aren't your typical trivia questions. We're talking about problems that require deep understanding and reasoning skills.
Exactly. And Phi-4 actually outperformed its teacher model GPT-4 on this benchmark.
Hold on. It's teacher model. What do you mean by that?
Right. So remember we discussed how Phi-4 uses both organic and synthetic data for training.
Right.
Well, some of that data was actually generated by GPT-4, a much larger and more powerful model.
So in a sense, Phi-4 learned from one of the best and then surpassed its teacher.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
That's pretty remarkable.
And it goes to show that this approach isn't simply about mimicking a larger model. It's about extracting the most valuable knowledge and reasoning techniques from the data and developing its own unique capabilities.
It's like it's taken the best of what it's learned and built upon it to create something even more impressive. Now, you also mentioned the math benchmark. Can you elaborate on that? What makes Phi-4's performance on that benchmark so noteworthy?
Right. So the math benchmark uses a data set of challenging math problems, many of which are taken from actual math competitions, as we discussed earlier.
Right.
And Phi-4 consistently scores exceptionally well on this benchmark, even surpassing the performance of much larger models.
So we're talking about a model that can solve complex mathematical problems, not just basic arithmetic.
Exactly. And remember those AMC math competitions we talked about? Well, it scored very well on those too, demonstrating its ability to apply its reasoning skills to solve novel problems it had never encountered before.
Yeah, it's really a testament to the efficacy of their data-centric approach and the power of focusing on quality over sheer quantity. It's a powerful illustration that size isn't everything, all right. So we've heard all about the impressive feats Phi-4 can accomplish, but even with all its strengths, there must be areas where it still falls short. Can you tell us a bit about some of the limitations they've identified?
Of course, no model is without its limitations, and they acknowledge that Phi-4 still has room for improvement.
Okay, so what are some of those?
Well, one weakness is its occasional tendency to hallucinate facts.
Okay.
Especially when dealing with less common or specialized knowledge.
Right.
It might generate information that's plausible, but not entirely accurate.
So while it's a whiz at reasoning, it might not always be the most reliable source of information, especially when venturing outside its core areas of expertise.
Precisely. And that makes sense given their focus on reasoning and problem solving rather than memorizing these vast amounts of data.
Yeah.
They've also noted that Phi-4 can be a bit finicky when it comes to strictly following instructions.
Okay.
Particularly those involving complex formatting or very specific stylistic rules.
So it's not going to be replacing professional copywriters or coders just yet.
Exactly. Its strength lies in reasoning and applying knowledge, not necessarily in meticulously following arbitrary rules or stylistic guidelines.
Got it. But even with these limitations, it's clear that Phi-4 is a significant development. It challenges conventional wisdom in AI development and opens up some really exciting possibilities for the future.
Absolutely.
It's certainly food for thought, and I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear more about those implications for the future of AI.
I think so.
But we are going to have to take a quick break before we delve into that.
Yeah.
We'll be back in just a moment to explore the potential of Phi-4 and what it might mean for various fields from education to healthcare and beyond. So stay with us.
Right.
Okay, so we're back and ready to wrap up our look at Phi-4. And, we've explored its architecture and all those training methods and even seen how it stacks up against those much larger models.
Sure.
But now I want to talk about the bigger picture. Like, what are the real-world implications of Phi-4 and what could it mean for the future of AI,
Well, I think Phi-4's success really does highlight a potential paradigm shift in AI development. If we can achieve such remarkable results with smaller, more efficient models,
Right.
it unlocks a whole new world of possibility.
Yeah, so paint that picture for our listeners. Like, how could this technology actually be used out there in the real world?
Well, I think one key advantage is accessibility. Smaller models like Phi-4 require significantly less computational power and resources, both for training and deployment.
So we're not just talking about big tech companies with massive data centers.
Exactly. Imagine researchers in developing countries, small businesses, even individual developers being able to harness this kind of powerful AI.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
It could truly democratize access to advanced AI technology, empowering innovation and creativity on a global scale.
That's an incredibly exciting prospect. What specific applications come to mind when you think about this broader accessibility?
Well, possibilities are vast. Think about education, for example. A model like Phi-4 could be used to create personalized learning experiences,
Interesting.
providing students with, targeted feedback, adaptive exercises, even interactive simulations tailored to their individual needs and learning styles.
That could revolutionize the way we approach education.
Yeah.
Making learning more engaging and effective for everyone.
Precisely. And it's not just limited to education.
Right.
Consider healthcare. Phi-4's reasoning capabilities could be invaluable in analyzing medical data, assisting with diagnosis, or even personalizing treatment plans.
Yeah, it could really empower doctors and researchers to make more informed decisions.
Right.
And potentially lead to better outcomes for patients.
Absolutely.
Those are some pretty compelling examples. But, with any powerful technology, there are also potential downsides to consider. What are some of the risks or challenges we need to be mindful of as these models become more common?
You're absolutely right. It's crucial to approach any new technology with a balanced perspective. And one potential concern is this issue of unintended consequences. As AI systems become more sophisticated, it's essential to ensure that they are aligned with human values and operate in a way that is both beneficial and ethical.
So it's not just about building impressive AI.
No.
It's about building responsible AI that serves humanity's best interests.
Exactly. And ongoing research and collaboration between AI experts, ethicists, policymakers, and the public are going to be vital to ensure these technologies are developed and deployed in a safe and responsible manner.
That's a really crucial point. So looking ahead, what do you see as the most exciting areas of research and development for models like Phi-4? Like, where do you see this technology heading?
Well, one area that really intrigues me is the development of even more efficient and robust training methodologies.
Okay.
Phi-4 has shown us that we don't always need to scale up model size to achieve these remarkable results.
Right.
But there's still room for improvement in terms of data efficiency and training speed.
Makes sense.
Imagine being able to train these models even faster,
Right.
with less data and fewer resources.
Yeah, that would really open up the possibilities.
Exactly.
Streamlining that whole process
Yeah,
would certainly make this technology more accessible and accelerate the pace of innovation.
absolutely. Another area I'm excited about is the development of more interpretable and transparent AI systems. As these models become increasingly complex, it's essential that we understand how they arrive at their decisions
Right.
and what factors are influencing their outputs. We don't want AI to be a black box
Yeah.
that we can't understand or trust.
Transparency and trust are essential for any technology that's going to have a significant impact on society,
Right.
especially something as powerful as AI.
Absolutely. And that requires ongoing research and open dialogue to ensure these systems align with human values
Right.
and operate in a way that is both beneficial and ethically sound.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into Phi-4
It has.
and its implications for the future of AI. It's a model that's challenging our assumptions and really pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It's a compelling reminder that innovation can come from unexpected places. Sometimes the most groundbreaking advancements arise not from simply scaling up,
Yeah.
but from rethinking our fundamental approaches and exploring new paradigms.
It really is a thrilling time to be witnessing the evolution of AI. Phi-4 is a shining example of the incredible ingenuity and progress happening in the field, and I, for one, am really eager to see what the future holds as these advancements continue to unfold.
I completely agree. Phi-4 is a testament to the power of innovative thinking and a data-centric approach. It'll be fascinating to see how it continues to shape the landscape of AI
Yeah.
and what new possibilities emerge from its development.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Phi-4. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration and, perhaps even had your own aha moments along the way.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the ever-evolving world of AI and a reminder that sometimes the most remarkable advancements come from thinking smaller, not bigger.
Absolutely. It's a field that's just ripe with potential, and Phi-4 is a prime example of the incredible ingenuity that's driving its progress.
Yeah. So we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning as we venture further into this fascinating world of artificial intelligence.
Until next time, keep diving deep.